And now we're looking at it from a buccal perspective, and we can look at it from the lingual perspective, buccal perspective if we like, but it's nice to see it from this side so that we can evaluate how on the occlusal plane is this initial crown proposal. It's good, but it's not great. Now, the only thing I would suggest we do here is grab the green wheel and rotate that around and make sure that that plane established by the red arrows more or less agrees with the occlusal plane of that tooth position. And taking into account the curve of speed, for instance, I think that that's a pretty good equalization of the occlusal plane, or at least the vertical position of that crown relative to that tooth. Again, the workflow overlay prompts kind of explain everything about what the red and green and blue activator wheels and arrows do. But once we get that more or less rotated into the correct plane, we go next. And this is now a forced perspective from the mesial and distal aspects, just to make sure that we're not wildly off to the buccal or rotated in this perspective too badly. But by the time we've done the initial centering on the previous screens, there's very little modification that's necessary to change on this perspective, and we can quickly go to the next panel, which now shows us in two perspectives at the same time. The vertical position and the final rotation of the crown. And again, by the time we've taken even a moment to consider perfecting or optimizing the previous screens, there's very little that needs to change here. The only thing I would suggest you do is drag up or down, typically down, the position, the apical coronal position of the crown proposal, such that you see a little bit more superimposition between the natural tooth cusp tips and the actual virtual crown proposal. Again, the virtual crown is in gray and the natural tooth below is in white, more of an ivory color. I'm going to make sure that we have this, crown in the right position. We want to make sure that we have the apical coronal position of this tooth not too tall, not too short. If it's too short, the preparation will be very aggressive. If it's too tall, we'll end up with a hyperocclusive result and a potentially fracturing crown over time. So as long as we have some of the natural tooth cusps pointing through this virtual crown proposal, we're in a pretty good position. And you can imagine if you drag your finger across from marginal ridge and marginal ridge as you would normally inspect the final position of a prefabricated crown, that's probably in the right alignment, vertically speaking. So we can click next. And now we're at the final screen. And this is the screen to which an assistant can get you to before you even sit down to evaluate it. While you're across the hall doing hygiene checks, the initial scanning, all the workflow overlay steps that you saw me just go through can be done. And this is the screen to which you can, validate and continue to optimize as you see necessary. So we'll wrap it up there and pick up with the refinement of these crown proposals in the next video.